My name is Patrick Gallagher. I'm the founder of Exhale Lending, and this is part two of a three-part series on how home buyers can take advantage of higher rates. So in the first part, we looked into borrower and buyer behavior as it ties in with mortgage rates and also some sort of seasonality. And now we want to look at how we can take advantage of these higher mortgage rates. So we know that potentially there is going to be less buying activity, and we already talked about in part one, where if you are already on the fence not wanting to buy, then you are falling right into my argument of the fact that higher rates put off buyers. But how can we take advantage of this? Well, we're not going to take advantage per se of the higher rates. What we're going to do is take advantage of the lower competition. If there's less buyers in the fray, then arguably there's greater opportunity for the buyer that stays the course. So let's just look at this comparison here. We have a buyer one who's buying in a lower rate, higher rate competition. In this discussion, in this presentation, we are looking at a seller who's asking for $300,000 for their home. Now, if there are more people trying to buy the same property, then arguably it's going to be much more likely that there is going to be a need for a successful buyer to bid over asking. Okay, so this offer is going to have to be over asking. Assuming this offer is accepted, then the financing terms would be as follows. The down payment would be about $15,250. The mortgage would be about $289,750. Okay, now a seller's concession is something that you can get from your seller to say, I love your home, I want to buy it, but the market's kind of sucky, rates are kind of high, I need you to help me out a little bit with my closing costs. A driven seller who needs to sell the property will say, okay, I'd much rather give you $5,000 towards your closing costs than say no and then have to drop the property price. So in a high competition, low rate environment, it's not likely you're going to get any seller's concessions. We're talking about a lower rate environment, so let's assume 7% interest rate, and let's also assume 0 points being paid by the buyer for that interest rate. Now, it wouldn't be unreasonable to assume around about $7,000 at a 0 points mortgage rate. It wouldn't be unlikely to see around about $7,000 in closing costs, and because there's no seller's concession, it would be probably reasonable to assume $7,000 in net closing costs. Our cash to close would be $22,250. That is the net closing costs plus the down payment, and ultimately the borrower would be making a mortgage payment of around $1,928. Now, if a second buyer happens to be looking at the property in a higher rate, lower competition scenario. So we're talking about the exact same property. The seller has come to the market asking for $300,000 and there's less buyers in the market. It would be quite likely that that buyer could get that home for less than asking. So in terms of the mortgage, that buyer would put let's not jump ahead. If it's $295,000 offer, that's accepted. That's $10,000 less than buyer one. So we have $500 lower down payment, $9,500 lower mortgage, but also we're not going to stop there. That buyer is going to ask the seller for $5,000 towards closing costs. Now, indeed, interest rates are higher. In fact, not only are rates 0.5% higher, but the buyer is also paying 0.5% in discount points. And that means that the closing costs are higher by around about $1,401. However, this buyer is able to get $5,000 of seller's concession, which now means the buyer has got a total net closing costs of around $3,599 less. When we factor in the down payment, which is $500 less, the total cash to close is over $4,000 lower. Yes, granted, the mortgage payment is higher by $32 a month. And yes, granted, it does feel like you're coming out the gate with a higher mortgage rate, but you're over $4,000 better off out of pocket. So That is how I'd like to tee up the purchase, okay? But it doesn't stop there because there's another phase left to this, and that is the refi. We're going to get into that in section 3 or part 3 of this presentation. Again, my name is Patrick Gallagher. I am the founder of Exhale Lending. If you'd like more information, please email me at info@exhalelending.com. If you'd like to get a pre-approval done, please text Exhale to 33655. Really appreciate it. Up next is part 3, the refi. Thank you so much.